Hi, I'm Nina Cook, and thank you so much for joining me today for the Entrepreneur's Inner Game podcast. Now, today I have a very special guest, ghSMART, and I'm really thrilled to have Geoff with me. So Geoff is the chairman and founder of ghSMART and the New York Times bestselling author of Who, Power Score, and Leadocracy. His mission is to help leaders amplify their positive impact on the world. Geoff, thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to the Entrepreneur's Inner Game podcast.
Well, thanks, Nina, and hello to your audience.
Brilliant. So, Geoff, I'd love you to share a little bit about what you do, how you've got to where you are now, and of course, this talk is all about the mindset and the role it's played in your journey.
Yeah, okay, so thanks. So let's see here. So my day job is I'm chairman and founder of a management consulting firm called ghSMART. And so I found the firm when I was 23 years old, so that it's a fun entrepreneurial journey. We can talk about all the mistakes I made along that process. And then in the last 10 years, my colleagues and I have authored some books on how to hire and lead talented teams. And so I'm probably best known for those books. So I'm coming to you as a fellow entrepreneur who's built a business, as well as someone who researches and writes and speaks on the topic of leadership in the entrepreneurship and in the corporate setting.
And what made you start your business at the age of 23? Because that's a young age to start a business.
It is. The story winds back even farther to age 17 when my mom scored me an internship in college. So one of my mom's friends was a venture capital investor, and I didn't know what that was. And this is back in the mid 90s, and venture capital hadn't become as kind of popular and mainstream as it is today. And what I learned in this little internship was that these venture capital investors are constantly making bets on things like products or technologies and on people. And they told me that they were much better at making bets on the things than they were on making bets on the people. And so I thought, well, this is kind of interesting. In fact, one of them told me, we make a lot of money or we lose a lot of money, not based on what we invest in, but who we invest in. So I thought, oh, this is interesting. Maybe one day I might want to start a business that would help investors understand the people they're investing in and make better bets. So that's basically the idea for my firm. I came across by accident when I was 17, and then I went on and studied economics and got a PhD in psychology and did all my research around how to help investors evaluate and then work with management teams to be more successful.
That's absolutely intriguing. So in terms of helping investors find the right people to invest in, What is it about those people's mindset that an investor would want to invest in? What makes them different to the others?
Yeah, okay, so that's an interesting angle on the question. Let me see if I can give you a good answer. I think the mindset of successful entrepreneurs and business leaders is a combination of confidence and humility. All right, and since you're a coach and you work with all sorts of different types of business leaders, you'll know what I'm talking about. I think it's the confidence to really build an expertise and be good at something. Something might be industry-wise, your expertise. It could be functionally. It could be could be anything. But you got to be good at something, to start a business, and then also to have the humility to be willing to hire other people around you who are good at other things. I think where a lot of entrepreneurs fail is in one of those two buckets. Either they haven't really defined a skill set or a capability themselves that's worth backing, or they're just such big ego people they can't imagine hiring other talented folks around them.
And what about those entrepreneurs who don't believe in themselves?
That's
who
bad.
may have the skills, but they just don't have the belief that they will make it, that they are going to be successful, that people want to buy what they have, and that they have the value to offer.
Well, they're right. Yeah, they won't be successful. So it's unfortunate. I think there are lots of talented people out there who could be entrepreneurs, but who get stuck, to use your term, and don't see themselves as entrepreneurs or don't see themselves as worthy of asking for the big sale or raising money or hiring people to work for them. It was kind of terrifying when I hired my first people, I was thinking like, why would they, want to work for me? And what do I know? And I really truly didn't know much back then. And I didn't have much knowledge, didn't have any clients, didn't have any money. And so I don't know, it takes like a little dose of irrational confidence in the very early days to start a business. But I think you really do have to build a capability and believe in yourself, and then hire great people around you to make the enterprise successful.
And you make it sound so easy. So what about you? Did you have doubts when you started out? How did you build your confidence?
Yeah, so I cheated in that I started a business before I had I wasn't married, I didn't have kids. I was just coming out of university. I was actually in my graduate program eating ramen noodles, like, hey, what are we going to do? We're going to change the world. All right. So do you know Inc. magazine? Do you
No,
have
I
that?
don't know
Okay.
it. No.
It's a small business magazine. I had a copy of it, and in the back of it, it said incorporate your own business for $500 US. So I thought, all right, I don't know what could go wrong. And so I incorporated and sent in the thing, and they sent me this binder full of legal forms, and boom, I was incorporated. I think it's easier to start a business when you're very young and you really don't have much to lose, or when you're very old and you're rich and you don't have much to lose. I think it's harder for many of us to start businesses kind of in our middle ages, where we have a lower risk tolerance. So I had a very high risk tolerance because I just frankly had nothing to lose in the very early days. Worst comes to worst, I would just get a job at a normal company like the rest of my colleagues. So I felt extra sort of artificially confident in those early days to take a chance and start a business.
And what about now? What's your self-belief like now?
Oh, I don't know. My self-belief like now is a healthy paranoia. I believe that at any moment your competitors can beat you. I think your employees could become upset with you, or not want to work at your company. So if you blow it in the market, or you blow it in your own culture, you will go out of business. And so as an entrepreneur, I'm very aware of that. So it's it's a humbling reality, and just trying to balance that paranoia with the ability to make decisions and confidently trudge forward. I think is a challenge for any entrepreneur at any stage. You could be Mark Zuckerberg and be in charge of Facebook and still be as paranoid as somebody who just started their company a week ago.
And I love that phrase, healthy paranoia. I think it's a wonderful way of putting it. But healthy paranoia can stop some people in their tracks. So what's made you keep pushing forward, even when you see all the risks, all the things that can go wrong?
Yeah. So I think entrepreneurs are misunderstood as being big risk takers all the time. I think, I know, as you do, I know a lot of entrepreneurs. I know successful ones, I know less successful ones. I think what allowed me to be able to trudge along this entrepreneurial journey was taking baby step risks. So in the very, very early days, I thought, oh, okay, I need to get a client. So let me call up an old business contact and try to turn them, into a client. And I did. And that's like small risk. That's like not a big deal. Oh, okay, now I want to hire some people, but I don't have much money, and I don't want to take on a lot of risk. So I'm going to hire contractors, people on a contract basis. Okay, that worked. Oh, now I've got 8 people working with me on a contract basis. We've got 20 clients. I think I'll start hiring full-time people. So it's basically like this incremental approach makes it less scary than deciding, I don't know, to do something big and bold and have to really jump. Kind of like, have you seen the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yes, yes.
Remember at the beginning of it when he has to jump across this huge, kind of like this huge cliff and get to the other side. Like, you don't want that cliff to be this far. You want that cliff to be like this far. So you just sort of step over it, then you step over it, then you step over it.
And what about strategy for a business owner? How do you know what to do? I mean, are you someone who's always had a coach, or have you made your own decisions? How's that worked for you?
I had the best mentors you could possibly have. So finding mentors, as you do, I'm sure I encourage entrepreneurs or business leaders of big companies. You always have to find mentors, work with coaches, etc. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know how you would know what to do. So my mentor in graduate school was Peter Drucker, who's like the father of management. Like he invented the field of management. He's a really old guy, really wise, kind of hard charging, tough love type mentor, but he was super helpful. My father was an industrial psychologist. He was in the field that I got into, so he was helpful. And then Marshall Goldsmith, who connected the two of us, has been a wonderful mentor for the last decade on all things related to publishing, et cetera. So I think if you had, I mean, I don't know how to do it without finding mentors or working with coaches to know what to do to get to the next level. Because you can, figure out the current level you're at, but there's always new challenges that will allow you to climb up and be successful at the next level. So I don't know, crazy idea, go find some folks, whether it's coaches or mentors who've been successful at the next level, and have them help you pull you up. And then of course you got to turn around, do the favor, and pull the next generation along also.
And in your time of watching entrepreneurs develop into leaders, what's the main factor that separates those who really feel that they can't make it from the ones who feel that they are going to make it?
Yeah, I think success begets success. So the ones who feel like they can make it have had, for whatever reason, some taste of success. Maybe their product was loved by a certain pilot client. Maybe the wrong reason, I think, to start a business or try to push forward with a business is just because you want to have a business. Like that doesn't work. I don't see that work as well as knowing who your customer is. So I have Peter Drucker's words in my mind. I had a coffee mug that had Drucker's two most famous sort of lines on it, which is, who's your customer and what does your customer value? So very early on, I identified who my customer at the time was, which was these venture capitalists. And I knew what they valued was making good bets on people and making money and not losing money. So I had a really clear idea about who my customer was and what they valued. And then I'd create a consulting service that worked. And then getting their positive feedback was like kind of psychologically gratifying, but also basically made me confident, there's a there in my business. It drives me nuts when young people or entrepreneurs come to me and say, I've got this business idea. And I go, well, tell me about it. And they don't start with the customer, and they don't start with a real need in the market. They start with their need, which is like, I hate being a lawyer. I want to start a company. And it's like, well, great. You can hate being a lawyer all you want, but unless there's a customer who's willing to pay you money for what you want to do, you ain't going to, you're not going to build a business.
I love that. That's really great. So start with your ideal client, and then the value that you bring. Because with the work that I do with business owners, so many of them feel they don't have value. So who's going to pay me for this? Because, they're not going to think I've got anything to offer. And that's a really big hurdle to get over as an entrepreneur, isn't it? To be 100% sure of your value and to look for the evidence that what you have, other people want. So even if you have only one client, that's still evidence that someone wants what you've got. And then you build up from there.
I couldn't agree more with you. I think having that first client actually pay money for the thing that you're offering is a wonderful proof point. Now, you might work with people who, even after their third client or fifth client or eighth client, still don't believe they have value to offer the world. And at that point, they really do need to work through their blocks and their psychological barriers that are preventing them from believing that they can be successful. But a lot of the really successful entrepreneurs, once you have a few examples of adding value to certain customers, they don't need a lot of convincing. They sort of just tuck and go, as we say.
And do you have any examples of when your mindset has tripped you up, or where fear has stopped you and you've sabotaged yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So those are a few different questions. Let me see if I got any good stories. Let's see here. I've been tripped up not by fear. So that's not I know that's a lot of people's problem. In fact, Nina, is funny. I was doing a training session just yesterday for my own team internally at ghSMART, and we have a lot of really talented consultants, people who've come out of fancy schools and worked at places like McKinsey, and yet they said that the most helpful part of this training session we did was fear management, like how to actually manage your own fear so that you can land that new client or suggest a bold solution to a client, et cetera. So oddly, it's missing. I don't have fear as a limiting factor. I have other limiting factors I'm happy to reveal. But I do see how people managing their fear and just pushing through it anyway is a common characteristic of successful entrepreneurs. Whether you need a coach to talk to, or you can just kind of like summon the strength or courage, put, it's kind of like this. I always tell myself, like, when there's something that's scary, but if I'm on the other side of it, and I would agree that I'd like to be on this other side of this challenge, I just kind of go for it anyway and give myself permission to fail. And it's usually not like that big a deal. A lot of people make failure out to be a bigger deal than it really is. My limiting factors are like more around, I want people to demonstrate a high level of urgency to take care of client needs or take care of each other. And sometimes, that's a double-edged sword, where if you apply too much urgency to a client situation or to a colleague situation, that can backfire on you. So that's more of my limiting factors around managing the level of urgency, so that whether it's clients or team members, they can function effectively.
So how important do you think mindset is to the overall success of any entrepreneur? Because there's obviously all the strategies, all the external stuff, which is really, really important. But what's between their ears? How big a role does that play for them?
I think it plays a 70% role. So maybe 70% is mindset and 30% is like actual skills. And the mindset that I think you want to have as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, is one of generosity. Really wanting your customer to love the value of your goods and services. It makes me sad or angry when I see business people of any size company who almost like their attitude is like they're trying to trick the customer into buying something they don't really need. So I think that's a losing mindset. I think the winning mindset is, hey, look, I want to help a customer genuinely. I actually want them to be successful. I want them to achieve real value through what I'm selling. So that's one mindset. Another mindset is kind of what I referred to earlier, which is like, I want to, as an entrepreneur, play to my strengths, and I want to hire other people and lean on them and trust them and delegate to them to play to their strengths. And that's a second mindset that is rare in business leaders, or entrepreneurs, is that willingness to acknowledge other people are better at things than you are, and to hire them and to celebrate them and appreciate them and to trust them to do their jobs. That's another thing that's a real sticking point with business leaders.
So it's really sharing your mission. When you hire someone, you share your mission of the company with them. So they're not just turning up wanting to get paid. They're actually sharing in your big vision. Exactly.
And it's like finding those people, inspiring them on the vision, but then really being willing to let them do their job is hard for a lot of business leaders. For my Who book, which is all about hiring, I got to talk to some self-made billionaires. And I was like, what are your secrets to success, and how did you hire your teams? And one thing that was the most surprising thing from that research that I did was how these self-made billionaires were willing to delegate and to like kind of inspire and believe in their people, but not to micromanage the people. And that's something that I wasn't expecting to hear, but I heard I talked to 20 billionaires. Every one of them was basically like, hey, look, my job is to like keep my eyes on the strategy and the customer, to hire great people, and then to get out of their way and let them do their job. That's very different mindset than the way a lot of managers and entrepreneurs operate who are less successful, who end up trying to nitpick and micromanage, as Marshall Goldsmith calls it, adding too much value to your people. Oh, Nina, that's a good idea, but let me tell you how it could be an even better idea. It's like, shut up, entrepreneur. Hire great people, get out of their way, and that's how you can scale an infinitely large and successful business.
And it's trusting them to do their job. And when they know you trust them, then they can really blossom and do their very best.
I think that's really true. I think there's a lot of value there that you can help your clients realize is hiring great people. You have to hire the right people, because if you hire the wrong people, you really shouldn't trust them. But if you hire the right people and trust them, you could be infinitely successful, I believe.
And what's the secret to hiring the right person?
Yeah, all right. Well, there are 4 things that you have to do, and if you do them, you can have a 90% hiring success rate. And if you don't do them, you won't. And so these 4 steps are: number 1, you create a scorecard for what you're looking for. So believe it or not, a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, hire based on their gut feel. Like, oh, I like that person, I'm going to hire them. Oh, really? You're going to hire them for what? Like, what's the criteria you're using? Like, what is it you expect them to do? So writing a scorecard down, what are the outcomes? What are the competencies? Like basically what's the, what are the criteria you're using to hire someone? Step one. Step two is sourcing people. And that's just, normal networking and calling up people you think will know talented people and saying, hey, who should I hire? The third step is called select. And that's where you interview the people. And the key here, Nina, is you're really not supposed to ask candidates hypothetical questions. How would you do this? How might you do that? Because people just make up answers and you have no idea, what their real capabilities are. You have to ask them actual questions about what they've done in their career, lots of questions about what they've done across their whole career. You could really understand what their strengths and weaknesses are for real. And then 4 is called sell, which is just like, don't forget, you actually have to, sell a great candidate on joining your company. So if you follow those 4 steps, our readers of our books and our clients end up achieving a 90% hiring success rate, which is really, really good, versus the average is a 50% hiring success rate, which is really, really bad.
Excellent. That sounds like a really concrete way of making sure you're hiring the right person. And when you hire the right person, it makes your job so much easier, doesn't it? Because you can delegate all that stuff that isn't the right thing for you to be focusing on. There you go. Who? And then you can focus on your own talents to grow the business and grow that vision and the mission.
That it's key. And very senior 50-plus-year-old entrepreneurs or business people will tell you the most important thing they do is hire the right people. And you need the right mindset. You need to be the right leader yourself in order to attract the right people, right? But it's make or break. If you can't hire the right people, you're not going to build a successful business. If you can hire the right people, you have a much better chance to be successful in growing the business of your dreams.
Yes, and it's the same with your personal life, isn't it? If you have your partner who makes you really happy and you're a good fit, then you have a much happier life than you have someone you can be arguing with. And it's the same when you're hiring someone for your company. It's making sure, they're a really good fit for you and your company. So is there any particular, quite a few of the entrepreneurs, leaders that I've interviewed, they often share a routine that they have to really get them into that space. Maybe it's to be productive or to be motivated and get their day off to a really flying start. Is there anything that you do or that you could share with our listeners about what really gets your day to be as productive and successful as possible?
Yeah, okay. So let's see here. There are a few routines that I do, and here's what they are. I guess how I manage my time routine is probably the most important thing. So I have my own scorecard for the year, and I call that up about every Monday, and I look at it, and I just look at what are my goals for the year and how am I doing relative to them. That's a step a lot of business leaders don't do. It sounds really simple to refresh your memory on what you're trying to accomplish this year and to check your progress, but I find it very valuable. And then every day, like I print my calendar, and I make sure that there are things that I've allocated time to that are going to move the needle on accomplishing the goals for the year. So that kind of time management routine is probably the most important thing. I don't know, I try to exercise 5 days a week. I try to meditate 2 or 3 days a week, that kind of stuff, eat right, just generally staying healthy is helpful too. But I don't, unlike some people who get like really into their, paleo diets and like get themselves all pumped up on some mantras every morning. I don't really do that. So I'd say basically, good time management combined with basic diet and exercise are my secrets to getting in the mindset for success.
And looking at your goal regularly and seeing whether you're on track for it, just keep reminding yourself what it is that you want, and that goal may change over time.
You bet. And sharing the goals with a coach, or in my case, like my work colleague and my co-author on the Who book, Randy Street. So he runs our firm day to day. He's a managing partner of ghSMART. So he and I, even today, he's my next call after you. We're literally going to just share our goals for the year and our actual results year to date and talk about, all right, how are we doing? What do we need to do? So having a partner, whether it's, a literal business partner, with my assistant, Jessica, who's in charge of my time and my calendar, quarterly we'll talk about how are we doing for this year relative to our goals? How do we want to shift how we spend time for the remainder of the year, that kind of stuff. So I think, having a clear sense of your goals and then sharing those with coaches, partners, assistants, make it much more likely that you'll get them done.
Absolutely. And what's your number one tip mindset strategy tip for entrepreneurs to really up their mindsets so they can have a very successful and profitable business?
Yeah, let's say here, the mindset. I always think in twos, so it's hard. It's like, what's the one mindset?
You can give us 2 tips if you like.
All right, I'm gonna give you 2 because I can't do it in one. I can do
an
it
extra
in 2.
bonus tip.
Yeah, it's the word generosity comes to mind, and it's a weird word. I don't know about you, but I rarely hear the word used in business. It's not a common culture value. It's one of our values in our firm. We have 5 values. One of them is generosity and gratitude. But let's say generosity for clients looks like, what does my client really need? What would actually make a valuable impact on their lives and in their careers. So having a generosity mindset with clients makes you create products and services that actually add value. And I'm a big fan of, like, charge money for actual value. Don't try to charge money for pretend value, because that's kind of like shoplifting, in my opinion. So that generosity with clients is one. And then the generosity with your teammates. If your company isn't paying well, you're not going to attract the right people. If your company has a lousy culture, you're not going to attract the right people. If your company tries to get all it can get out of your people without giving them what they need, you're not going to attract the right people. So there's no shortcut, I think, in entrepreneuring. Entrepreneurs, like, French word means like come between, and you're coming between clients and their needs and your people and their needs, and you're right in the middle. And so basically having a generosity mindset in both directions, I think, is how you build a successful company. And without the generosity mindset, you might experience some success for a very short-term basis, but it won't last.
That's brilliant. I really love that. And generosity is very, very important. As you said, not many people talk about it. They tend to think, what's in it for me? But if they were to turn the focus onto the client or their or the member of staff, their teammate, then it changes everything, doesn't it?
I think so. That's right. It's the opposite of the way to your point, a lot of the drive in entrepreneurship is like, me, like, I want to prove to the world I'm worthy. I want to make a bunch of money. I want to be famous, that kind of thing. And that's fine. People are going to have their own drives, and that's great. It might provide some fuel. But if the overarching mindset isn't one of, I want to make, a real positive impact in the lives of customers and my teammates, you're not going to build something that customers want to pay money for or teammates want to join.
Absolutely. And what's the best way for our listeners to find out about you and your work?
I think your listeners would probably find value at ghSMART.com is my website, or ghSMART.com if they work in huge companies. So ghSMART.com is just my author website, so you could read about our books. We have blogs, we have free videos, we have free tools for how to hire and lead teams. So that's kind of fun. And then our consulting firm, my day job, ghSMART, is at ghSMART.com. So if you have listeners that run or own large companies, we certainly love advising leaders of big companies on how they can hire and develop their talented teams. So that's how to get in touch with our content.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Geoff. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experience. It's been absolutely fascinating. And for everyone who's been listening in, has enjoyed this, I hope you got a lot of value from this, and look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you so much, Geoff. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.